In an era where the grotesque and the absurd often sit in the high seats of power, the decision by Maine to bar Donald Trump from its primary ballot under the auspices of the 14th Amendment is not just a welcome corrective, but a clarion call for the defense of democratic sanity. This move, while a pinpoint in the vast canvas of political struggle, is a stroke of bold color against the drab backdrop of contemporary political cowardice. Shenna Bellows, Maine's Secretary of State in this action, does not merely perform an administrative function. She wields the scalpel of justice with a precision that is as commendable as it is rare. To disqualify Trump, a man who turned the highest office into a pulpit of falsehood and division, is to acknowledge a truth that many in power have been too craven to admit. There are acts so corrosive to the fabric of democracy that they must not be met with the usual polite evasion. Trump's response, and that of his acolytes, is as predictable as it is pathetic. They howl about partisanship, about the subversion of democracy without a trace of irony. This man, who has done more to undermine the pillars of democratic governance than any other recent figure, now styles himself as a martyr of the system he so gleefully sought to dismantle. It's akin to an arsonist crying foul over the smoke damage to his own clothes. The true outrage here, the one that should burn in the heart of every citizen, is not that Trump has been barred from a ballot, but that it took this long, that the path to this decision was so tortuous and fraught. Trump's tenure in office was not merely a series of misjudgments. It was a systematic assault on the truth, an orgy of nepotism and corruption, a ceaseless parade of incompetence and malevolence. His actions surrounding January 6th were not merely a failure, but a betrayal of such magnitude that it should have immediately rendered him persona non grata in any political discussion. Yet here we are, debating whether a man who incited an insurrection, who sought to overturn a legitimate election, should be allowed to run for office again. It's as if we've collectively decided to entertain the ramblings of a mad king, pondering whether his rants are just an eccentric form of governance. The decisions in Maine and Colorado are not mere political maneuvers. They are acts of moral necessity. They draw a line that says, here and no further. For too long, the political establishment has treated Trump's litany of offenses as if they were normal, as if they were just another part of the game. This is not a game. It's the lifeblood of a democracy, and Trump has been draining it like a vampire in the night. The efforts to remove Donald Trump from the ballot in states like Maine and Colorado should not be misconstrued as mere political machinations. They represent a far deeper, more profound assertion. A declaration that the health of our democracy, the sanctity of our institutions, and the principles upon which they stand are of paramount importance. This is not just about barring a single, albeit deeply problematic figure from a position of power. It is a statement about the boundaries of acceptable conduct in a society that values the rule of law, the integrity of its electoral processes, and the truth itself. The vociferous outcry from Trump and his supporters, branding these decisions as assaults on democracy, is not just misguided. It is a perverse inversion of reality. What we are witnessing here is not the suppression of democratic ideals, but their very defense against an individual whose actions have consistently aimed to undermine them. It is a necessary stand against the erosion of those democratic norms and values that, once lost, are incredibly difficult to regain. This moment, then, should be seen as a pivotal one in the ongoing narrative of American democracy. It is a time when certain states have taken a stance that may well resonate through history, a stance that reminds us that democracy is not an infallible, self-sustaining system, but a fragile construct that must be actively and vigilantly protected. It is a reminder that the freedoms and rights we often take for granted are perpetually at risk from the forces of authoritarianism, misinformation, and unbridled ambition. Therefore, these decisions are not just about the 2024 election or about Donald Trump as an individual. They are about setting a precedent for the future, about sending a clear message that there are lines which must not be crossed and actions for which there must be accountability. They are about affirming that in a democracy no one is above the law, and that the preservation of the democratic system itself is a responsibility that trumps any single individual's political aspirations.